The second mission opens with the Master Chief looking at his helmet and the port that Cortana used to reside in. Quick aside, what the hell is up with the Master Chief's model here? All of the vertices are twitching and freaking out. Was that not a bug worth fixing before the game shipped? Because it looks ridiculous. Anyway, the Pelican is heading for a space station named Argent Moon. Blue team, who were not here before, are now suddenly here now. Fred slips in a line about them all being together in boot camp, and Kelly tells him that Chief is fine. Chief reports into Infinity, receives mission directives, and puts on his helmet. After asking Blue team if they are ready, they jump out of the ship and we cut to this elite who is walking around like a total asshole.
I hope no one can tell that I have a wedgie so bad that it has worked its way so far up my alien asshole that it is tickling my uvula.
And then this bullshit happens. This is the best way for Blue Team to enter this station? This abomination of tactical decision making? This has the same problem as the Osiris introduction. It's trying so hard to make these characters look badass that it completely jumps the shark and ends up owning a timeshare on Absurdist Prime. Who the hell are Blue Team trying to impress? The elites? The unseen audience? The choice to enter this station this way makes absolutely no sense. This is not a plausible military strategy by any stretch of the imagination. Even if, for some reason, their only way onto this station was by blasting their way through the glass exterior, they wouldn't do it by shooting it a couple dozen times and then smash through it with their faces. They'd place a charge on the glass, detonate it, and then enter the station after all the elites were sucked out into space. This, bust through with your skulls, plant on the ground, and watch these elites fumble and comedically fly out into space tactic is absurd and done purely to try to amuse the audience. Listen, if it wasn't obvious up to this point, I am certainly not against using comedy as a tool for entertainment, but it has to be done right. While imperfect, Chief dive bombing his Banshee last second at the end of Halo Combat Evolved is a good example of how this can be done much better, with the main difference being that one is diegetic and the other is not. Sure, this scene is flawed because you enter and therefore exit a Banshee from the back, meaning Chief should have either fallen to his death or blown up in the explosion. That and the fact that this is a fairly risky maneuver for the sake of a joke. Yet, despite this, the audience can generally accept this scene because of what it reveals about these characters. This continues to show us the relationship and dynamic between these two characters. These characters tease each other, make jokes, and have fun. It wouldn't make sense for Chief to do this for any other reason, but because it was done specifically to tease another in-game character, not for the unseen audience, it works in context. This is a diegetic goof meant solely for Cortana, and this is a non-diegetic goof meant only for the audience and no one else. Do you see the difference? Again, I'm not saying it's perfect. Far from it, actually. But it is a much better example of a similar kind of goof. There is no plausible justification for this. You can't rationalize how completely silly this is, nor how unbelievably brittle that glass is. Speaking of which, why the hell would you make a space station with glass that breaks this easily? I know that's a fair bit of gunfire, but any one of these thousands of asteroids would have significantly more kinetic energy than those bullets would. Are you telling me that any one of these asteroids could just smash through the glass at any time, killing everyone inside? Shouldn't these windows be made of something virtually indestructible? Asteroid-proof glass? Invisible aluminum? Plot device anium? Something? Chief and Blue Team then make their way through Argent Moon. A bunch more tell, don't show exposition is delivered by Blue Team to explain the station and the objective. As much as I have nitpicked the exposition throughout these videos, my biggest problem with this mission isn't the exposition, it's the mission itself. Why do we, as the player, care about any of this? This is a station that's been missing for over a year and a half and Oni wants it back. Whoop-de-f***ing do. There's no investment here. There's no one to save, no personal interest, and serving Big Brother to retrieve lost property is anything but an enthralling premise. It's just a boring, by-the-numbers military mission. Speaking of which, why did Osiris get the task of handling Halsey and the Guardians while Chief, the multi-time savior of the human race, get put on space station retrieval? Is this really the best use of the greatest military soldier you have? Wouldn't it make much more sense to send Osiris here and send the man you know can single-handedly crush entire alien armadas on the mission to stop the Guardians? Anyway, Blue Team need to make their way to Central Control so that they can take back the Argent Moon. To be honest, there really isn't much to say about the first half of this mission, so I'm just gonna gloss over most of it. But there are a few things I want to point out.
We've got a complete set of dataset keys for the station. We should be able to pull down Argent Moon schematics and find a path to Central Control.
Access the databanks. Grab the data and current population map.
Should be a straight shot to Central Control through the assembly bay ahead.
The first objective is to get the station's schematics so that they know where they are supposed to be going? Why wouldn't this have been something they received prior to the start of this mission? I mean, someone at ONI has to have the schematics of a space station they built, right? Why would you send your team in blind? Or does Blue Team and ONI just wing everything that they do? Hey, yo, Chief. This is ONI. Covenant took our station. We want it back. Go and get it, would ya?
Sure thing, Oni. Can I bring my friends?
Like we give a f***. Just make sure you shoot through a window all badass-like and stuff. Really show them Covenants who's boss.
They must be stripping that experimental ship for parts.
Scavengers, taking what supplies they can find. The Covenant's war against the Arbiter must not be going well.
Jul Dama is a lot of things, but he's no prophet.
The Covenant are at war with the Arbiter? Why? What did he do? Or they do? Or what? Oh, no answers? We're just gonna move on? Fine. I don't care about your damn exposition anyway. So what? Is Jul Mdama the leader of the Covenant now? Linda replied to Fred's Covenant war by directly mentioning Mdama, so yes? This is precisely what I mean when I talk about how poorly told this story is. I have played through this game several times and I still don't understand several portions of this game's plot. For all the exposition in this game, you really don't learn much from it. The main problem with the exposition is that it's essentially just a string of facts without nuance or elaboration. An elite named Jul has Halsey. Halsey has information. The Prometheans turned on Jul. Oni wants their space station back. The Arbiter is at war with the Covenant. These are all just facts, with no explanation about how or why they are. Without context or understanding, these are just throwaway lines that mean nothing to the player. Why does Jul have Halsey? How does Halsey have information? What is the information? Why did the Prometheans turn on Jul? How did Jul get them to follow him in the first place? Why is the Arbiter at war with the Covenant? How is Jul the leader of the Covenant now? Or was before his brain turned off and Locke piggybacked him to death? Without these answers, the audience has no context and they ultimately become just strings of facts you're likely to forget as you have no investment in any of it. Blue Team eventually make it to this bridge and some straight up nonsense unfolds. A hunter who was hiding behind these boxes because I guess he thought there was a surprise party going on smashes the bridge and Chief falls and blacks out. Well, whites out. Now Chief is somewhere where there is no space station and only rocks. Instead of wondering, this isn't a space station, he just asks Blue Team to report. Chief hallucinates around for a little bit until he spots Cortana on a cliff. Cortana speaks a few cryptic lines about the opening of the domain, the planet Meridian, and the reclamation. A Guardian is then dramatically revealed as it appears between them, and then Chief is brought out of his vision by the rest of Blue Team. Before I move on, let's cover a few things here. Firstly, was this Cortana's plan the whole time? Wait for Chief to hopefully get a bump on his head, and then telepathically communicate to him through a vision during his BRB hashtag nap time? More importantly, is telepathy a thing in the Halo universe now? Because I mean, this is a full-blown vision. This is above and beyond anything we've seen in any Halo game up to this point as far as I'm aware. I know that Halo 3 had some vision-esque sequences with the Cortana visions, but I always took those as signals sent to Chief's suit and either appeared on his visor in the same way that his HUD does, or at most in his mind through his neural interlace. To compound this idea, a few moments after receiving one of these transmissions, a few Marines say this.
Sir, you okay?
Your vitals just pinged KIA.
which further indicates to me that this is some sort of signal that interferes with the Chief's suit, causing all sorts of disruption from visor and comms functions to vital status and locomotion. But this is so much more than that. This is a full-on incapacitated hallucination. Telepathic visions constructing a whole world full of sights and sounds and plot contrivances. Putting the fact that visions of this caliber are a cheesy cliche aside, it feels even more out of place in a story like Halo's. Halo has always been a science fiction franchise, but has always made a point to try and explain everything in a believable, if pseudoscience-y way. Telepathy and visions just feel out of place in this universe to me, especially when used in such a cheap and cliche way. Hey, how do we give Chief the information he needs in order to find Cortana? I mean, she is on the other side of the galaxy and all that. And we'll just give Chief a vision of her where she tells him where to go. Wouldn't that be horribly cliche and out of place in Halo? Nonsense! Visions are all the rage these days and are an underappreciated storytelling tool. The kids will love it! Besides, Bungie already did visions back in Halo 3, so it's all good. Well, actually, they were more transmissions back in Halo 3, and while far from a perfect storytelling device, they weren't used quite so ham-fistedly. They were more nudges to the story rather than blueprints for the story to follow. And you know, in retrospect, that part of Halo 3's story was actually one of its weakest aspects, so maybe we shouldn't use it as a jumping off point for our story in Halo 5. And done. Sorry, were you saying something? So Chief snaps out of his storytelling cliche and Blue Team asks him if he's alright. Chief says Cortana is on Meridian and the scene fades to black. Then this happens.
That's not possible.
You said she was gone.
I watched her die. We have a mission to focus on. We can talk about this later.
So, do you think she's alive, or do you think she's dead, Chief? Because you're giving off some seriously mixed signals here. After a few rooms and a few more encounters, Kelly asks what Cortana said to him. Chief says she mentioned something about Meridian, and Fred says that Meridian is a nothing planet in the middle of nowhere. So why the hell does Blue Team just go along with everything that Chief says about Cortana without any proof? First off, as far as the universe is concerned, Cortana is dead. Chief even just said so himself. So there is absolutely no reason for these soldiers to believe she is still alive. Secondly, everyone implies that Chief may be emotionally and mentally unstable. So common wisdom should indicate that any hallucinations or visions about Cortana would be a figment of his imagination or manifestations of his guilt or grief. They should have no reason to believe that Cortana is actually telepathically communicating with him from across the entire universe. Yet they go along with it as if his words are doctrine. And C, has anyone in this universe experienced telepathic communication from AI to host before? Is it just an accepted fact that AIs can send visions to their partners from across galaxies in this universe? None of this is explained and we're just supposed to accept this all as fact. Any sane person, no matter how close they are to Chief, would question the validity of these statements. Anyway, a bunch of Covenant cruisers show up for some reason, so Blue Team decide to blow up the station. Wait, what? Shouldn't this be something the Chief has to run by Oni? I mean, this is their station, right? Their mission? The station they want back so badly that they sent the hero of the universe to retrieve? Since when does Blue Team have carte blanche on mission parameters and objectives? I mean, seriously, how does Chief just get to make this decision without radioing into anyone? The mission starts with him reporting into command, so why doesn't he do it here? I mean, this is a pretty costly decision, right? Also, if this mission is so important that they sent the Master Frickin' Chief, the best of the best, this station must be pretty high priority, right? Is this space station important or not? On one hand, it's clearly implied that it is, based on the aforementioned evidence, yet on the other hand, it's implied that it isn't because they received no backup or further assistance if shit goes sideways, and the fact that Chief can just blow the entire thing to hell whenever he feels like it without reporting to anyone. Speaking of which, what is so important on this station that the Covenant can just send thousands of troops in order to defend it? Like, what is going on? This game does nothing to explain itself. Why is this important? Why should we care? Why do the Covenant care? Why can Chief just destroy it willy-nilly if it's so important? This is yet another example of the game giving you exposition facts without any nuance or elaboration. It's just important, okay? So start caring and shut the hell up with all your questions.
Plan changes to asset denial. We scuttle the Argent Moon.
Ship's reactor core is near here. Same plan as the Perpetual Devotion?
We overload the reactor at evac. Ship explodes, destroying any ships nearby.
The reactor is below the lab just ahead. We can use air ducts to travel between them. Marking the access panel.
There is no reason for Chief to clarify the plan when Fred asks if it's the same one as Perpetual Devotion. Fred and the squad clearly know what happened there, so a simple affirmative from Chief would have sufficed. But as is accustomed in Halo 5, the Exposition would rather be forced into the puzzle rather than finding the right pieces to fit smoothly into place. The worst part is, this could have easily been avoided with a few simple changes. The first, and easiest option, is to just leave out Fred's line altogether, making the conversation go like this.
The plan changes to asset denial. We scuttle the Argent Moon. We overload the reactor at evac. Ship explodes, destroying any ships nearby.
The reactor is below the lab just ahead.
Or, alternatively, you could still keep the reference to what I am assuming is expanded universe lore and go with something like this. Instead of Fred stating the plan and leaving the Chief to expound on it, just have Fred say, the ship's reactor is near here. If we overload the reactor, the ship will explode, destroying everything nearby. And then Kelly or Linda could say, just like we did with the Perpetual Devotion. Chief would then say, exactly, and then continue on with the mission. Do you see what I'm getting at here? Either of these options achieve their goals and do it in a way that feels natural and makes sense for the characters. Chief elaborating on something that the whole crew already knows for the sake of the audience is just jarring, unnecessary. Yet these changes convey the same information to the audience in a way that makes sense for the characters and the audience.
Green 5 clearance accepted. Authorizing entry.
So what? Chief just knows the code? So Oni gave him the code to an elevator that he would only need to use after the first plan fell through, but never gave him a map? What?
There's chatter about Julem Dharma on Covenant comms. The new arrivals say he's dead.
Somebody cut the head off the Covenant. Bravo.
Oh, no? No one cares? He just said that someone cut the head off of the Covenant. Isn't that like a huge freaking deal? Or something? No? Okay. And hold on a damn second. Why is it that Kelly can intercept Covenant chatter to learn that Julem Dama is dead? Does she also speak Sangheili? Or does she have a translator? Did Oni cut costs with Fireteam Osiris by not giving them translation tech because one of their crew could translate it for them manually? Here's another question. Why the hell doesn't any of this make any sense? I mean, look. Even this jackal is speaking English! What the H-E-double hell is going on here? Blue team fights some hunters and then push into the reactor room. Once the room is cleared, the team sets the reactor to self-destruct, but a failsafe engages and stops the station from detonating. Blue team turns the failsafe into just a fail and push to a hangar so that they can escape. They engage in a final showdown in the hangar bay while the ship fuels and then report to Infinity.
Sierra 117 to Infinity. Argent Moon scuttled. I've reassigned Blue Team. Destination Meridian. Potential contact from Cortana.
Negative 117. Another team is already being prepped to deal with her.
What the hell?
What the hell? How dare they assign someone other than us?
You're to return to Infinity immediately.
Negative Infinity. I don't like it.
Oh, I'm about to lose my shit. Negative Infinity? I don't like it? That's the f***ing line? That? Where? My name's Major Chief and I don't like it. She's my Cortana and no one else can have her. I don't like it when other people have her and I don't. Where? Like holy son of a medulla oblongata, people. This is unbelievable. Listen, I'm not criticizing Chief for saying no and going AWOL. I am absolutely criticizing how he does it, however. Let me list, just off the top of my head, a few lines that would have been infinitely better than what was chosen here.
Negative Infinity. I made Cortana a promise.
Or negative Infinity. Cortana is my responsibility. Or negative Infinity.
That's not going to happen.
Or just simply
No, sir.
end transmission. Seriously, making the most badass soldier in the universe say I don't like it is so antithetical to his character that it borders on embarrassing. Chief is stoic, unwavering, and a little sarcastic.
No thanks to your driving. Yes. Something tells me I'm not gonna like this. Tell that to the Covenant. That's a first. Thought I'd try shooting my way out. Mix things up a little. Asking's not my strong suit, on occasion.
So lines like this are emblematic of the fact that the writers of Halo 5 simply didn't understand how these characters are supposed to be written, which blows my mind seeing as the dialogue writing in Halo 4 was so damn good most of the time.
They won't court-martial all of us, right?
Okay, I get that Fred is being cheeky here, so despite how badly I want to say, absolutely they will, I will instead say Orange Monkey Eagle. Now look, I understand that they overheard the fact that another team has been tasked to take care of Cortana, so they have reason to believe the Master Chief now, but does it actually make sense for these characters to risk being court-martialed and imprisoned over Chief's blue bombshell? I'm actually asking here because I have no idea. Someone who has only ever played the games will have no history, no attachment, and no real understanding of these characters or their allegiances, so it's a completely justifiable question to ask. Outside of a one-off line about Fred knowing Chief since boot camp, we know nothing else about these characters or their history with the Master Chief. If anything, based on the games alone, they have absolutely no history with him and just showed up out of nowhere for no reason other than to facilitate a gameplay mechanic. So does it make sense for the player to take the leap of logic and assume that these characters' choices are justified? Or, based on what the average player knows, does it make sense for them to question the actions of strangers they met only 10 minutes ago? Even as someone who had read The Fall of Reach, even I hesitated upon first viewing this scene, because that is a hell of a risk to take solely because a squad mate misses his AI. Anyway, Blue Team decide to go AWOL with the Master Chief, and they escape in their ship exactly as the station explodes for extra dramatic cinematic effect. Legend even has it that none of them turned around to look at the explosion. And then the screen, yet again, fades to black. The next scene honestly is a lot of talking over each other and is easier to just watch play out rather than for me to try to summarize it for you.
I tried to warn you this was happening. Cortana is no longer an asset, Captain. She is a danger. She has access to the Forerunner domain, a galaxy-spanning network
Cortana's
that
alive?
allows her to control whatever devices caused this damage.
How is she?
Master Chief believes she contacted him.
No, John must not speak to her.
He's gone in search of her.
You let him go?
How is
Nobody lets the Chief do anything. He does what he wants.
Until 0631 this morning, when he was declared absent without leave.
This isn't about the Master
John
Chief.
is not equipped emotionally to deal with her as a threat.
Hey! Is anyone gonna answer me?
You're out of line, Roland.
Yes, sir, but so is everyone else. You created Cortana, Doc, and now you're throwing her out the airlock with these accusations.
Roland.
You think she tricked the Master Chief into abandoning his post? Respectfully, sir, to what end? Why is Cortana the problem? Because she refused to die when she was supposed to?
Alright, I like Roland. I think in general, he's a good character. And actually, in this scene, I think he makes a fantastic point. The problem is that both right before and directly after he makes said fantastic point, he completely negates it with all these stupid as hell statements. Roland is the only one thinking here by questioning why everyone is so uptight about Chief going to find Cortana. It's a valid point. What does Cortana accomplish by tricking Chief to come and get her? It doesn't make her any more powerful. She already has the Guardians and the Warden Eternal, more on him later, at her fingertips, so what does she gain? One could argue that she ventures to gain capturing Chief so that he can't interfere with her plans, but it's a bit of a leap in logic to assume that's her motivation, even if it ultimately does end up being the case at the end of the game. More on that later. No one has talked to Cortana. No one knows her mental state, her current condition, nor her plans. The only thing anyone knows for sure is that she is somehow connected to the awakening of the Guardians. So to assume that she has turned completely evil, wants to kill everyone, trick the Chief, capture him, or convince him to help her destroy the universe is a bizarre leap in logic. I understand planning for the worst, but throw a bit of pragmatism and analysis in there as well. And while Cortana does eventually have to resort to capturing the Chief, again, more on that later, that is a last resort for her. It's like everyone in this universe are die-hard pessimists and assume that everyone and everything means to be as evil as they possibly can be at all times, including the hero of humanity, because f logic. This story needs conflict. While Roland makes a great point here, he completely undercuts himself by acting on his emotions and making these stupid statements. Just because Halsey created something doesn't mean that that thing can't turn out to be evil. Someone created Jeffrey Dahmer, Hitler, and Furbies. What's more, his final line is simply absurd.
Why is Cortana the problem? Because she refused to die when she was supposed to?
No, Roland. She's a problem because she is connected to the Forerunner devices that are killing hundreds of thousands of innocent civilians, you damn idiot. I don't understand how he can go from the only logical person in the room to a complete fool from one sentence to another. And again, like clockwork, the screen fades to black. The next scene shows Cade and Locke conversing about the moral and social implications of bringing in the Master Chief and his squad. There isn't a whole lot to this scene, mostly just surface level confliction and deliberation, but there are two things I want to touch on. The first is incredibly nitpicky, but it stuck out to me, so I'm gonna point it out. The timing between Locke inspecting the object and Fillion asking how they plan on bringing them in is just comedically convenient. I mean, Locke happens to walk over to the armor restraint while Buck is talking to himself about being an ODST. Only once Locke is already reaching for the restraint does live action Nathan Drake start to ask how they are going to bring them in, which is impeccable timing as Locke just so happens to have the device on hand ready to demonstrate. Again, I know it's nitpicky, but it is comedically timed. What is significantly less nitpicky are these parts.
The lock. Every other Spartan, every soldier, when they hear about this, they're gonna hate us. You know that, right?
Why would they hate you? You didn't make this decision, your CO did. Aren't you just doing your job? Isn't that what you're supposed to do? What everyone is supposed to do? What do they expect? For you to go AWOL like the chief? Defy direct orders and get court-martialed? I don't understand the logic behind this statement. I get that Chief is a hero and that people won't be happy with the idea of him being arrested, but why would anyone blame you for that? They wouldn't. They'd blame whoever gave you the order, and to think they'd blame you is fucking dumb as hell. What's more is Locke's response.
You're not the only one here because of him.
Oh, looky here. Another example of expositing a fact without nuance or elaboration. Cool, so Locke is here because of Chief. Great. And why is Locke here because of Chief? Or how? And when? Oh, that's it? End of scene? Oh, yep, there's that patented fade to black. I know that if you watched Halo Nightfall, you'd understand Locke's backstory and how that correlates to the Master Chief, but if you haven't seen it, this is as much as you get. Bye-bye, thanks for coming. Next scene! And what the hell is with all these fades to black? It's like the writers wrote 15 vignettes but weren't sure how to tie them all together, so they just threw a fade to black between each of them to try and ease the transition. The problem is they tried to solve one problem while creating another. I mean, seriously. Next time you play this game, take a shot every time you see a fade to black. You'll be passed out or dead by the halfway mark. Final point for this mission. Does it actually make sense for them to send a squad after the Master Chief? I mean, honestly, does that actually make any sense? I understand they are a military organization, and I am sure there are countless protocols and regulations dictating that they should, but this is the Master Chief. You know, that guy who single-handedly saved the entire human race multiple times? The person who has put what was in humanity's best interest as a priority for his entire military career? Don't you think, out of anyone in this universe, the person who deserves the exception the most is the Master Chief? Especially considering that Lasky is in charge of the Infinity and clearly trusts and has a soft spot for the guy, or at least used to back in Halo 4, but I guess doesn't now because conflict. You can argue that he's just doing his job all you like, but practically it doesn't add up. He wasn't just doing his job back in Halo 4 when he risked his career to help the Chief out, so I fail to see why he'd have a change of heart now, but whatever. There is no way way that the best use of Fireteam Osiris's time is to track down the Chief, especially when considering the Guardian threat. They would be much better utilized trying to find their own way of stopping the Guardians, rather than be tasked to arrest the hero of humanity. I mean, what are they afraid the Chief is going to do? Side with Cortana and destroy the universe? For what purpose? Doesn't that directly contradict quite literally everything the Chief has ever done his entire career? Even with the fears of his mental state, Chief siding with Cortana and ending the universe is such a leap in logic that I cannot suspend my disbelief that anyone would jump to such a wild conclusion, especially when considering who they are referring to. Now, if Chief ended up siding with Cortana and the UNSC had proof that he had turned traitor, then I can completely understand sending in a team to take him down. But jumping the gun with this precautionary measure goes against all logic. It doesn't feel like a reasonable order of events, and instead feels like a cheap excuse to cause conflict and validate the existence of Fireteam Osiris in this game's plot. If anything, Chief would be the absolute best person to intercept Cortana because he is the only one in the galaxy who would even have a chance to get close to her. Considering the massive colony obliterating power she wields, would anyone else truly believe a team could get remotely close to her without first being destroyed? The most logical and strategic course of action would be to assign Blue Team to assist with the team already tasked to take care of Cortana. That way, Chief could attempt to sweet talk his way into meeting with Cortana, potentially placing both teams in the same room as her. If he ends up unable to convince her to stand down, then the other team could have an ulterior directive to destroy her. Or if the Chief ends up siding with Cortana, then the other team could take him down as well. Or they could have orders to shoot on sight as soon as they have the chance, whether Cortana is compliant or not. This plan covers multiple different outcomes and has the most chances of being successful. Maybe it's just me, but I feel like this makes far more sense than what was shipped with Halo 5. Anyway, the mission ends and we move on to mission 3. Mission 3 is all about tracking down Blue Team. Not a lot happens in this mission, and most of it is just combat, so I'll be glossing over large portions of this one. There are a few things of note that I want to touch on as we make our way through, though. The mission starts with Fireteam Osiris taking a space elevator to the planet's surface, giving you your daily overdose of exposition on the way down. As much grief as I've been giving the exposition so far, this is one of the few instances where it is handled in a way that feels appropriate. Fred stated that Meridian was a nowhere planet, so it makes sense for some of these, if not all of these characters, to be in the dark about the history of this place. My only real complaint is that the exposition kinda starts out of nowhere. It would have been smoother if Buck had made a sarcastic comment about how the planet looks like a shithole, and then Tanaka could give the backstory about the glassing in response to that. Otherwise, the scene just cuts from an establishing shot of a pelican to riding an elevator with Tanaka's unsolicited exposition dump. It's a jarring transition and one that's really easy to fix. Anyway, Osiris continue down the elevator and are greeted by Governor Sloane and the Prometheans attacking Meridian. Sloane gives Osiris lip, but Osiris helped defend the station anyway. After several firefights, Osiris are contacted by Sloane and he begrudgingly thanks them for their assistance. He asks them to assist another set of locals who are in need of help, and Osiris oblige. The rest of the mission is just Osiris moving from location to location, helping the locals fight back the Prometheans. Nothing much in regards to story unfolds during this mission, but it does have a pretty blatant error. Throughout this mission, Osiris go back and forth between talking amongst themselves and speaking to Sloane over their comms. Pretty straightforward, right? Except it's not. Let me show you a few clips and then ask you a question.
Wow, pretty quick turnaround from get off my planet to, hey, can you help?
At least he's talking to us. That's a start. What's wrong with him? He looks broken.
Rampancy onset. Late stage from the looks. Probably sacrificing resolution for logic cycles.
I have welcomed you to my home. Do not be so rude as to make my health a point of conversation.
Of course, Governor. My apologies. We're looking for another Spartan fire team.
So Apogee came under attack, and then a UNSC ship was seen heading that way.
Find a network terminal. I want to know more about Apogee Station.
Artemis ought to be able to track down a suitable network terminal. Ping it.
Looks like we got an escort.
Be surprised if there weren't. Sloane can't be happy about UNSC marching around out here.
The lady is correct. My team's there to keep an eye on things while you look around. Nothing personal, Spartans.
No offense taken, Governor. We'll find our targets and be out of your way shortly.
Okay, so when is it exactly that the comms are between Fireteam Osiris only, or broadcast out to everyone who will listen? Buck makes a sarcastic-ass remark here, but Sloane doesn't seem to hear him. Yet when Vale questions why he looks broken, Sloane interjects to scold them on the comment. So what? Vale was just broadcasting that out into the ether to anyone with comms? Or did Sloane intercept their chatter? If she was, that's stupid as hell. And if she wasn't, why aren't Osiris reacting to the fact that Sloane is eavesdropping on / jacking their comms? I'm sorry, but where the hell is the consistency in this game? It completely draws me out of the experience when I can't follow or understand why certain things are happening the way that they are. When the game goes from insinuating that these comms are private to then demonstrating that they are not, the illusion is ruined and it just leaves me baffled by the events unfolding in front of my eyes. It even happens again at the beginning of Mission 5, where Tanaka makes a comment about Sloane providing an escort, and then Sloane interjects again as though he can hear every word that they are saying. Why the hell are they broadcasting their private conversations out to the planet? Or is Sloane tapping their comms? I don't understand. I can't. Anyway, Osiris eventually make it to Meridian Station, help repel the Promethean attackers, and then the screen does something you absolutely wouldn't expect. It fades to black. Mission 4, if you can call it that, is a hub mission, which essentially means walk around, talk to people, mission ends. You start this mission by entering Meridian Station and discover that Governor Sloane is not a person, but an AI. Hashtag AI aren't people, hashtag non-binary, hashtag digging my proverbial hole, and a deteriorating one at that. Osiris asks Sloane if he has seen another Spartan team come through here, and while he essentially says no, he kinda dances around the topic. Osiris then turned to questioning the locals, and the first local I asked said this.
Pound glass, UNSC. It's not my problem if your buddies didn't tell you where they parked. You ought to synchronize your drop zones better next time.
I don't care how much you hate the UNSC. No one is stupid enough to talk like this to a 7-foot super soldier who could quite literally punch their head clean off their neck with one swift and fluid motion, Vampire Diary style. Maybe I'm just an asshole, but if I were a Spartan and someone disrespected me like that, I would hang them from their ankles and practice my Rocky montage on them as if they were my very own personal punching bag. After talking to a few of the station's inhabitants, Osiris learned that Blue Team made their way through Apogee Station, and Locke finds a terminal to gain intel on Apogee.
Did I give you permission to poke about?
Yes? Do you not remember but 3 minutes ago saying this, Governor Sloane?
I'm unaware of other UNSC agents in our midst, but you have done right by my people so far. Have your look, but make it quick.
Oh. Your AI brain must not be working so good. Either that or the writers forgot that they had you give permission between these lines. Sloane gives Osiris permission to access Apogee, and even a first-class flight on one of his station's Pelicans. Osiris boards and the mission ends with another fade to black. A fade is far cheaper than animating the crew entering the Pelicans, you know. Mission 5 is where things start to get interesting again, and not in a good way. So the Pelican drops off Osiris and the team make their way through the station. Many a firefight take place, and Osiris end up at the ship that Blue Team arrived on. In it, they find a map they believe will take them to where Blue Team was headed. Locke asks for permission to enter the mines, and after some hesitation, Sloane allows them through. Several more encounters later, Fireteam Osiris finally make it through the mines and find a Forerunner structure. Tanaka comments that there are no records of Forerunner technology on Meridian, so this is either a new discovery or someone has been hiding something. The team revels at the technology and they lose their signal to the surface and Governor Sloane.
Privacy at last.
Privacy at last? So what? He was tapping into your comms? Why did you just let that happen all this time? And why did Sloane only tap in some of the time? Hold on. So a deteriorating AI on a backwater planet has the ability to intercept state-of-the-art Oni tech? Wait, why does a nothing planet in the middle of nowhere even have an AI? Aren't AI fairly rare and incredibly expensive? Are AI just given out to anyone who wants one? Osiris make their way to the bottom of the structure and Tanaka says this.
Just realized, Buck was saying Blue Team didn't fight Prometheans. Well, they didn't have to sweet-talk Sloane either.
Now, I understand the seed that the writers were trying to plant here, as it is confirmed a few moments from now, but how the hell does she figure that they didn't have to sweet-talk Sloane? Where is there any evidence of that? Like, at all. For all she knows, they could have tried to sweet talk Sloane and Sloane could have told them to pound glass. There is no basis for this conclusion, yet she states it like a fact. Luckily, the rest of Osiris isn't so quick to jump to conclusions. This is another instance where a simple, subtle change could have made all of the difference. If Tanaka had said, Buck was saying that blue team didn't fight the Prometheans, what if they didn't have to sweet talk Sloane either? Now the same seed is planted, but without Tanaka saying as if it were fact, not speculation. Not only that, but immediately after stating her fact, she backtracks and says that it's a possibility. By front-loading the statement with the fact that it is a possibility instead of stating it as a fact and then revising it later, you have a much more natural and believable conversation that doesn't make people like me go on a whole paragraph tangent over a minor grammatical detail. Once at the bottom, Osiris push forward and trigger a cutscene.
She calls the Guardians to serve her.
What was that?
Why did he say this? Like, why? To who? For what purpose? Why would this need to be the first thing spoken to Osiris? Especially when playing the pronoun game and not saying who she is. This cutscene would have made much more sense if they had walked in, crossed the bridge, the door in front of them closed, blocking their path, and then the warden speaking this as his opening line.
What was that?
Well, let's go find out. We're sitting ducks here.
Agreed. Move!
Your presence in the Guardian's shelter is undesirable.
Are you the Guardian?
I am Warden Eternal. I stand in service to Cortana.
Cortana?
The other humans are approved for passage. Regretfully, you are not.
That sounds like a threat.
Vacate this shelter now.
That was a threat, all right.
This cutscene introduces the player to the Warden Eternal, the antagonist of Halo 5. Well, one of them. And while you could argue that the exposition could have been handled a little bit better in this scene, and I could too, I think it was serviceable enough. The pieces may have been forced just a bit, but the scene served its purpose. The Warden Eternal is the first boss battle of Halo 5, but it is far from the last. More on that later. Osiris engaged with the Warden, and after a bit of a fight, he is taken down. What confuses me is, as you'll see a bit later in the game, the Warden, and I quote, has a single mind but a few million bodies. So if that's the case, why does Osiris only fight one here? Osiris isn't allowed access, right? So why does the Warden proceed to allow them access after his first body is destroyed? I guess the Warden was like, well, they defeated me once. Better call it a day. I have a hand to stick down my pants and an episode of The Big Bang Theory to rot my zeros and ones away with anyway. Seriously, we see later in the game that he can control a seemingly unlimited number of bodies, and all of these are potential bodies to inhabit, right? So why didn't he just inhabit them all and completely and utterly obliterate Osiris right there and then? Because the script needs them to survive and for the Warden Eternal to piss off? Again, a simple, stupidly easy change could have rectified this problem in an instant. Instead of having dozens of Warden capsules littering these walls, just have one. There. Now that body is defeated and there are no more for the Warden to assume direct control over. I know this doesn't fully solve the problem because the Prometheans, including the Warden, can just teleport in whenever they want, so there really is no reason why they couldn't have absolutely flooded the place with Wardens and Prometheans, but I digress. Unfortunately, there is no way to write around this problem without using some sort of bullshit MacGuffin device, so regrettably that is a plot hole that I simply can't fill. Not only that, but wasn't that door locked in front of them? Why does the Warden unlock it for them after he was defeated? Even if he only ever planned on using one body to stop them, all he had to do was keep the door locked and they never could have progressed any further. There, problem solved. But again, if this pragmatic series of events unfolded this way, then Osiris couldn't continue and the game would have to end. Look, I'm sympathetic to the writer's plight. I know the game can't just end here, but if you need to make it so that Osiris finds a way past or through the Warden, you have to do it in a way that makes sense. What shipped with the game just doesn't. The Warden easily could have and should have, based on the rules set up in this universe, wiped Osiris off the face of this planet right here, right now. But I'm tangenting.
The Warden said Cortana was calling them to her. She's not here.
How do you figure, Locke? You just walked into this damn place and have barely had a second to look around. Besides, Cortana is an AI. She chooses if and when she wants to holographically project herself into existence, so who's to say she's not in the Guardian right now? I don't understand what is with these characters and making these unsubstantiated and presumptuous statements as facts. It's like the code of conduct for this damn team. Conjecture would have worked perfectly here, but instead they state everything as fact, not speculation. It's bizarre.
Contact!
Move! Contain!
Why are Blue Team just getting to the Guardian now? Wait, no, seriously, stop the video. Why are Blue Team just now reaching the Guardian? The game isn't explicitly clear on the timeline, but Blue Team have been demonstrably ahead of Osiris for their duration on Meridian, right? I mean, back at Meridian Station, we see a Marine who is at an outpost, had enough time to watch Blue Team fly overhead towards Apogee, get on a mongoose, and then make his way to Meridian Station, all of which happened before Osiris even arrived to Meridian Station. That easily puts Blue Team far ahead of Osiris at that point of the mission alone. Couple that with the fact that Sloane has been allowing Blue Team passage without barriers. They haven't been fighting the Prometheans, were allowed entry by the Warden Eternal, and have had a map telling them directly where they were supposed to go this whole time. Why weren't they hours ahead of Locke and his team? With Osiris stopping to help the inhabitants of Meridian, tracking Blue Team, dealing with Sloane railroading them whenever he could, the stop at Meridian Station to find clues and interrogate the locals, fighting hundreds of Prometheans, and the fight with the Warden Eternal, Blue Team should have been long gone by the time Osiris even entered the mines, let alone reached the Guardian. But if that happened, then there wouldn't have been this epic engagement between Blue Team and Osiris. So maybe Chief and his crew had to stop for a few hours and take a nappy nap, you know, to get some beauty sleep. Gotta make sure that face is well rested and beautied up so that it can afford that glass-shattering punch it's about to receive. Throwing the fact that this makes absolutely no sense aside, we have something more atrocious to get to. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you what quite possibly may be the worst cutscene in Halo 5. I'm just gonna let this play, and in the meantime, I'm going to go pound my head against a wall until my frontal lobe deteriorates to the point that I find enjoyment in what is on display here.
117, stand down. Sir, you are absent without leave. This is your one chance to come home peacefully. Blue Team, stand down!
I have a job to do.
Cortana's our concern now, sir.
Like hell she is.
where do I even start with this scene? First off, and this is something I will touch on again later, this scene demonstrates exactly how pointless these other characters are. They do nothing, and I mean nothing in this scene. Blue team is gone before the fight even starts, and Osiris are just sat on the sidelines with their hands down each other's pants eating popcorn. When your characters are so unimportant and do so little for your story that you have to write them out of scenes to accomplish your goals, you've failed to write a competent story or characters. It makes absolutely no sense for the rest of Osiris to just stand idly by during this fight. Their mission objective is to take the Master Chief and Blue Team in, not let Locke and Chief have a limp-dicked pissing contest while Blue Team escapes. It's ludicrous and antithetical to the whole damn purpose of Osiris in the first place. You create a team to serve a purpose. You break continuity to get them in the same place so that they can serve their purpose, and then immediately break their characters by not having them serve the exact purpose that you created them for? I'm honestly not sure how some of these decisions were made. I wish I could have been a fly on the wall during this game's development so that I could get some insight as to how this game ended up the way that it did. I can only venture to guess that there were story beats written early on, this fight scene being one of them, and they were written before adding the mandatory co-op AI partners to the game. The teams were added later to facilitate a gameplay mechanic, like Frank O'Connor says, and once they got to this scene again, the writers had to try and find a way to remove the rest of Osiris and Blue Team from the equation so that Chief and Locke could have their fight. Again, this is pure speculation on my end, but it's the only reason I can think of as to why this story feels so disjointed. We've seen through 343's past that they can write far better stories than this, so it's clear that this poor script isn't the result of incompetence. So that begs the question, what is the reason for this poor script? Mismanagement? Too many cooks? Recipe changes? Too many conflicting ideas? Or maybe they just didn't have enough time to fully develop the script the way that they wanted to. If 343 ever do a post-mortem on Halo 5, especially for the story, I would love to watch it and see what really happened behind the scenes. Because like I said, I know 343 are an incredibly passionate and talented team, so there has to be a reason why this story failed to come together. Anyway, Chief gets emotional, and instead of going through the portal and making progress towards Cortana, he throws a hissy fit and punches Locke in the face. Are we sure this is the Master Chief and not some angsty teenager trapped in his armor? I really don't feel like this is how a mentally distraught Master Chief should be written. He wouldn't be lashing out like a rebellious teenager. Based on everything we know about this character and the kind of person he is, this trauma, if anything, should have further distanced himself from his emotions, resulting in an even more distant and machine-like human being. Locke should be a non-issue. Chief likely wouldn't even have acknowledged Locke's existence and simply walked through the portal, laser focused on completing his mission and finding his AI partner, not throwing tantrums and picking fist fights. This "I'm gonna throw a hissy fit if you try and steal my Cortana" version of the Master Chief is so antithetical to his character that it borders on bastardization. Take a look at this scene from Halo 4. Essentially, the exact same scenario is taking place. Someone is trying to take Cortana away from him. Yet, look how he acts. This is the stern, stoic, and driven character that we've seen since Halo Combat Evolved. Not this. So Chief punches Locke and they get into a fight. Let me ask you something. Aren't Spartans supposed to be the most lethal, swift, and deadly fighters the galaxy has ever known? If so, which it is so, why is this fight between Locke and Chief so amateur and pedestrian? I mean, just look at this fight. We have not only seen in other Halo games, but in this game specifically, that Spartans can perform ludicrous and inhuman feats. So why is that replaced in this fight with this dreadfully slow and boring choreography? You're all seeing this, right? I'm not stuck in some sort of nightmarish Halo hellscape where I will be forever tormented by the wasted potential that is Halo 5. Why is this fight so damn lethargic? These are physically and mentally augmented super soldiers in state-of-the-art power armor that makes them strong enough that they can flip a fucking 66-ton tank. Characters in this universe have broken their bones by moving faster than their skeletons can handle. So why are they hitting each other like two young siblings who want to spar but are afraid of actually hurting each other? I've punched my brother in the face harder than these guys for calling me a dork. What's worse isn't just the slow and poorly choreographed fighting, but the fact that they couple that with cliche cinematic nonsense like the slow turn, dramatic reveal, and senseless padding of the fight by not having the characters take advantage of openings in the other's defenses.
Hey, Chief. Let's just hold hands here for a second. Forget the fact that either of us have a second hand we could use for combat, or that either of us could push our weight forward and tackle the other with our shoulders. I'm a super soldier in power armor, but I think I'll just slowly get up after taking a punch or two. My name's Master Chief, and instead of going through the portal while Locke takes a nappy on the floor, I'm going to slow walk towards him with my hands by my side so that Locke can get up and kick me in the chest. Then I'm gonna flail around and still keep my arms by my side so that he can kick me again. And then after I take him and make him do a flippy, I'm going to be sure to give an extra long and telegraphed wind up with my arms so that he'll have time to evade it. Wouldn't want to end this fantastic fight early now, would I? Now that he evaded and kicked me in the head, I will yet again stand here with my arms by my side so that he can continue to kick my ass. Genius! Oh, he just hit me with a right hook. Better cover my face to block his inevitable left. Or not.
Right on cue, slow dramatic turnaround and reveal. Exactly what this fight scene needed. Also, why is Locke letting Chief sit there? Pull out the armor restraint and put it on him. Now! You have an opening! This is your chance to accomplish your mission! This is the whole reason why you ventured across the galaxy to get here! He is practically handing victory to you! Put the restraint on him! Do it! Or, stand there for 10 seconds, wait for Chief to turn around, and then dramatically reveal your armor restraint directly in front of his eyes so that he can take note of it and defend himself from it. Whatever, why do I bother? I mean, fucking seriously! Look at how long they are just standing there! How long was that? Oh, 18 seconds? Oh, wow. To me, it felt more like 37 million years!
We're going to continue to slowly fight over this for a while. It's mine. No, it's mine. No, it's mine. No, it's mine!
Oh, shit. Locke is restrained. Better continue sitting here on the sidelines and watch as Chief slowly and dramatically makes his escape. Wouldn't want to get involved and accidentally end the game right now, would we? This fight has demonstrably horrible choreography, but what makes it worse is how painfully slow it is half the time. These are super soldiers, therefore they should be moving at superhuman speed. This animation looks like they simply took the motion capture data from two ordinary humans and put it onto these Spartans with as little modification as possible. I'm not saying that this fight should have been an incomprehensible blur of movement and jump cuts, but the actions they took should have been snappy and far faster. Some of you will probably rip me to shreds for making this comparison, but take a look at this fight scene from The Matrix. Yes, some of the choreography is outlandish and cartoonish, with characters flying across the arena and blasting holes in walls with the impact of their spines. But that isn't what I'm referring to. Look at how they fight. Anticipating attacks, blocking punches, blocking kicks, defending their face, and trading blows. They're not just standing there with their arms at their sides, most of the time, waiting for the other to slowly punch them in the mouth. Take a look at the movement. Everything is fast, yet clear. They aren't jump cutting every 10 frames. The camera isn't shaking and zooming like it's riding a laundry basket down a set of stairs. Everything is clear and concise. Hits land hard, fast, and frequent. The fight goes back and forth with Neo having the lead only to have Agent Smith turn it around and get the upper hand. This back and forth builds tension because you don't know who will have the advantage nor for how long. This is how you choreograph a fight scene, especially between what are supposed to be two super soldiers. Now, while I can't change the animations in this cutscene, i.e. the choreography, look at what happens when I cut a few frames here and there and adjust the speed of their attacks. Everything lands harder, faster, and it looks like these two are really trying to kick the shit out of each other. They still stand around like buffoons and don't guard for shit, but the actual attacks feel meatier and more fierce. Do you see what I mean? Little touches like this can make a big difference in the feeling of a fight. Anyway, the rest of Osiris remember they exist and jump down to remove the armor restraint. And before one of you try to say that the platform was too far away and that's why Osiris didn't help before, I have 2 points that invalidate that argument. First off, they could have jumped on the platform when Locke did. But more importantly, look at that distance. These are Spartans who can jump 10 feet in the air and have freaking thruster jets, for Christ's sake. They could have easily made that jump. And even if they couldn't, which they could, these Spartans can flip tanks. All it would have taken would be for one of them to kneel down, the other to get a running start, the other person then launch them over their shoulders, and then thrust forward at the apex of their jump. That way, 2 of the 3 could have been there to assist Locke help take down Chief, which is way more sensible than for them to just stand on the platform and gawk. What's more, if they would have coupled all of Fireteam Osiris engaging in the fight with the choreography of the aforementioned Book of Eli scenes, this scene could have been absolutely badass and shown how incredible of a fighter the Master Chief can be. Imagine Osiris coming at the Chief from all sides, but he is such a lethal tactician, so hyper-focused on completing his mission that he single-handedly fights them all off and escapes. I understand that well-choreographed fight scenes, especially like those that would need to be constructed for this scene alone, are very difficult to do, but unfortunately they are exactly what this scene needed. This scene needed to hit as hard and as fast as the Matrix, and it needed Chief to be taken on by all of Osiris at once like the Book of Eli. Unfortunately, we didn't get that. Instead, we got this, and that's such a shame, because this scene could have been so much more. The Guardian begins to awaken and causes the cave to start to collapse, so Osiris have to run a gauntlet of collapsing platforms and falling stone in order to escape. That guy from Firefly nearly dies because he apparently forgot that he was a superhuman and could have lifted himself up with his pinky, but luckily Locke comes back through the teleporter to save him last second. The Guardian starts to move and, you guessed it, fade to black. This is a test. This is a test. This is a test of my microphone. I just stepped on a cable, and I lost the melody long ago. And serving Big Brother to retrieve lost property is anything but an enthralling Wow, now I'm interested. Have a sip of this tea, coffee. I keep doing that. I don't know why I keep doing that. Jesus Christ, it's been 2 months. Still calling it tea coffee. What the is wrong with me? Oh, that is good tea coffee, though. I'm actually fine with it being called that as long as it tastes that good. They should have no reason to believe that Cortana is actually telepathically communicating him. Damn it. Why is it so hot in here? That's what I get for locking myself in my closet. I mean, is this stay? Hold on. Tea time. Negative infinity. Shit. I'm gonna have deep enough. I don't have a deep enough voice. Now look, I understand that they overhood. What the hell type of accent is this? I should use my thermos thing so that way this stays warm, because right now it's just piss. But like old piss. You can argue that he's just doing his job all you like, but practically it doesn't make sense. Shit. Those words weren't even on the script. It says it doesn't add up. I just said words that didn't exist on the script because my brain's dumb. I don't like the way I wrote this. I wrote this like a butt face. Yo, that's a lot of reading. Fuck me. Oh. I have one more sip of tea real quick. It's actually tea this time, so. Oh, it's hot. But I was smart enough to keep my thermos, so now it'll stay hot. That way I can consistently burn myself instead of only at first. Why did I write this like that? I'm gonna redo that whole thing. I'm so sorry myself in the future. I mean, my editor Stan. And then Tanaka could give the black story. Oh God, is that racist? Because she's black? Otherwise, the scene just cuts from an establishing shot of a establishing. Fuck me. Why did I write that sentence so long? It's like 5,700 words. Be right back. Oh, it's so nice out here. Oh, beautiful air. Oh, hell yes. I'm gonna get myself a little bit of tea in me mouth. And then hopefully down me throat into me stomach. Then from me stomach through me intestines. Eventually into me bladder, then out me dick. Into me toilet. What is wrong with me? No wonder I'm single. For all she knows, they could have tried to tweak salt. I'm pretty sure that's what happened to Miami when that guy ate that person's face, right? Well, they defeated me once. Better call it a day. It would have been better if I actually listened to his voice before trying to do this. I didn't learn my lesson with Buck, and apparently I'm not learning it here. I'm never gonna learn. God damn it, Dad. Why are you always so right? How can I be recording in my underwear and be sweating? My AC is like pumping. I'm literally in my closet, almost naked, and I'm sweating. God damn it. Anyway, the rest of Osiris remember they exist and jump down to remove the armor. I almost got through it. I almost did it. Oh no. I did it. I got through all of it. Oh. All right. It's been real, recording closet, but I'm outie. Peace.